Welcome to the Art of Conscious Living. I'm so very, very pleased to have my guest today, Caroline Muir. I have known of her work and actually have practiced her work since the early 90s. She's an incredible woman that has so much vast, incredible knowledge about Tantra and what it is like to be in this world instead of living a conventional way of being and sharing. She takes it to another phase of being in a state of being very blessed and celebrating, a life of celebrating. I'm so very pleased to sit with her today. And how are you, Caroline?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you for writing this incredible book that I came across in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. I mean, it was done so simply. There was nothing complicated about it, mm-hmm. but it showed all the possibilities that are there, mm-hmm. that we could use sensuality and sexuality as something else,
yes.
other than what was not told to us.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think what Charles and I attempted to do in our book, and I believe we did it, is describe the yoga of love. Because Tantra is a yoga. Tantra is not a gift from ancient India that said we can go to all these single parties and be sexual with whoever we want to be. It really is a system of spiritual practices that a couple can take into the bedroom and elevate the experience of their sexuality into something more spiritual. And I came into it being a student of yoga, and actually a student of yoga in Charles's yoga classes for many years before we ever became a couple.
Charles being your ex-husband.
Charles Muir. Mm-hmm. And Charles was teaching in the little additional classes after the Hatha yoga classes about different kinds of yoga, some of the different limbs of yoga. And one of them was Tantra yoga. And when I heard that there was a yoga that included our sexuality, my ears perked up, being an honest, forthright Scorpio that I am. Wow, you mean there was an ancient system of yoga that included how we use our sexual energy in the bedroom and be more conscious that way? So that really hooked me in immediately.
What year was that?
That was in about 1985. I was at the end of my third marriage and feeling quite like a failure. Went off to a yoga retreat to, trying to get my wits back about me and try to figure out what was going on in my life, because this was my third marriage and it was ending, and I knew that it must all have something to do with me. And so the Tantra yoga gave me the first insight that there's a responsibility that men and women have around sexuality and spirituality that we can become more aware of in the unity and union of relationship. And I didn't know that. Most of us didn't. We just jump in because it's hot or it's sexy or we call it we're being in love and let's get married or let's have a family or let's keep having a lot of sex. But we don't really go into the bigger picture of what is this energy offering to us and how can we ride this energy into higher states of consciousness.
And how does one ride this energy and exchange this energy in the sacred sex, in the communion of intimacy? They transform something that's ordinary into something that's absolutely extraordinary.
Yes.
And people who don't know that and are listening here, what does that mean?
Well, I was one of them. When I first got involved in this, I had no idea there was anything other than sex as I knew sex, as a healthy, animalistic female. And I had my orgasms the way I knew how to have them, and I didn't have the kind that the men wanted me to have, for instance. And yet we kept trying to make sex successful. And often it was, but somewhere inside of me I kept getting this little message that there must be more to this than just the getting off or just the success of sex. And that probably was because I was on a spiritual path. I loved my Hatha yoga classes. I loved meditating. I loved reading metaphysical books. But I didn't know there was any connection between spirituality and sexuality until this vast subject of Tantra yoga came into my awareness.
And here we are 25, 30 years later, and it all started in those classes, and you were embracing the sensuality and spirituality all together. Where was the pitfalls in all this, and what has been the minuses and pluses of it? Has there been any minuses?
Well, the pluses are the fact that you're entering into an education that will last the rest of your life. Because every time we come into the bedroom with a partner or partners, we have the opportunity to either show up fully as conscious, loving beings, or we can notice that we're not fully there, that we're attached to an agenda, or we're goal-oriented, or we're not really loving, we just want to get some physical thing accomplished. So there's a lot of things we can become aware of when we go into the art of being sexual that goes far beyond the animalistic need to express this primal energy that we all carry, right? And that's what excited me so much, is that it began to hone a focus and a consciousness on this huge energy of sexuality that in my life could move mountains. I would change my life in a heartbeat for a sexual connection that was bigger than the last one. And I noticed a lot of people around me were having similar experiences. There was something about this sexual energy that we had to follow. You know, we're results of the sexual revolution. And finally it was okay to claim this force within us.
And not be guilty about it.
And not be guilty about it. And I'm talking about myself as a woman here.
Yeah.
Because it was always okay for men. It was always okay for the men to have all they wanted and with whomever they wanted. And for a man, it was more, hey, you know, good work, buddy, to get laid.
But that's not good for women to do that.
But it was a different
paradox there.
A different paradigm for women back when I was growing up. And then I came into the 1960s, and suddenly it was okay to have lots of partners and be even married and have other partners too, and who cares about monogamy, and everything was just opening up, including me. And I didn't really know how to do it consciously.
Would you agree that the one aspect that a woman really wants is that they really want to be seen and heard and felt? There's no doing up, there's nothing to fix up in bed or in that communication of sensuality. I mean, it's not that she wants a big performance. She wants really that man, her beloved, her husband, her lover, sees her.
Yeah.
And this is so lacking. Would you agree with that?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because I agree with that 100%. I need that. I didn't know how much I needed it when I first began my healing journey. And I speak of the healing journey for those people who, well, how do you get from, you know, just having sex, the good old-fashioned all-American way, like fast food, like a Big Mac and fries. Right. How do you get on the go, from behind, on the way out the door. How do you get from that to a spiritual connection that involves really a lot of intimacy and being seen and being respected and even treated in a reverent way as a woman? How do you get there for both men and women? So these practices of Tantra yoga were the key for getting me there and for all of my students over these years. They're simple practices, but we didn't learn them in 8th grade. We got Sex 101.
Right.
You know, use protection, don't get pregnant. Boys only want you for one thing. It's your duty as a woman. A lot of that early conditioning.
Yeah, and 99 pushes, maybe, and then it's over very quickly, and then you're still hanging there,
right? What about
waiting to go,
right?
your going is multiple, and if men would know how to tap into that multiple, then they would have an incredible, so much more than what they could possibly have.
Exactly.
Or even imagine they could have.
Yes.
I mean, it's women have the most powerful, potent energy. In your book and in your classes, it's Charles has often said, men think they're coming, but they're really going. I've heard this expression. And they're really going because they've come and they've gone, and I mean, there's no presence. There's so many more possibilities of this deeper connection of using sensuality and sexuality as a shock to put you more into vast amounts of energy that is there.
Into divine connection. And divine connection is limitless.
And for those who don't know absolutely what we're talking about, of Tantra or yoga, and they're hearing us speak about this, how would they start? What are the simplest ways that they could meet their lover, their beloved, their husband, this person in a different way now? Because they've been doing this other way for so long. So how do they make that shift?
Well, I really think that education is a good start, and you can learn a lot from reading books. That's the least expensive way, or going on the internet, reading about the sacred sexuality. What are they talking about? What makes it sacred? What changes it from just sex to sacred sex?
And what is that?
And I would say the first thing is opening the eyes and letting the other person see you, and looking into their eyes so that you see them more deeply. Because sex is a sexual center exchange. It's friction on certain parts of the sexual center, and hopefully somebody gets off.
Yes. It's muscle contraction.
Right.
Very simple. It's going to happen on its own without us having to go there and do anything.
Do much.
So let's bring something more to this, and that more would be, let's bring some presence to it. Let's bring an attitude. Let's bring a motivation that we're about to enter into a ceremony of something. So it's not the same old sex that we've been having for years here. It's new.
Yeah.
It's got some potency.
Let's open our eyes. Honey, I haven't looked at you while we've had sex in 18 years.
Right.
But usually the man buries his head in the woman's neck and thrusts a number of times with enough friction that he gets off, and maybe she enjoys it too. But they're not present with each other. They're not really loving each other. They're going through the sex act, which feels good. It's a great sneeze in the groin, as Fritz Perls once said. No one minds the pleasure, and we all want more of it. But it's coming up and exchanging energy in the eyes and in the heart, and these other chakras. And that's a little too much of a yoga term for the average person, but let's just help people realize that sexual energy is in all of us. It's not just in the passion center. It's not just in the genitals.
Yes.
It's in our eyes, and it's in our lips, and it's in our hands, and it's in our heart centers and our breasts and the man's chest. So actually those centers can go through the motions of lovemaking and often be as pleasurable as the genitals and the motions that they make.
And breathing. Breath is...
That would be the next thing.
Yes, the breathing. As you breathe deeply, just like a baby breathes, it keeps you there. It keeps everything so vital and open and so juicy and alive. People who are doing shallow breathing, they're cutting off all of the energy.
Yeah.
A lot of people do shallow, or they do reverse breathing, which is even worse. So it's about breathing in that way of natural, deep, abdominal breath, just like the way a baby breathes.
Most people don't know about that breathing at all. Mm-hmm. Most people go through life breathing very shallow. They're not aware of their breathing at all. Any good stress management class will teach a person to breathe more deeply. Anyone who has anxiety attacks needs to learn to breathe much more deeply. Right. And any good yoga class teaches deeper breathing. A birthing class that the men and the husband and wife attends, childbirthing, teaches the mother how to breathe more deeply so that her birthing experience is more pleasant for her.
Nice.
And you seem to have, you've been educated well about this.
Yes,
And
like you, I've been searching since I'm 12 years old. I mean, I've read all the books of Montauk Chia and the microcosm and controlling, and then what the men should do. The men should recirculate the energy instead of letting the orgasm go, the ejaculation.
The ejaculation.
There is a difference between, an orgasm is not in the ejaculation, and they don't know that.
I know.
So, and there's no place in time, really, that the father sits down with the son or the daughter and the parents and they give them this kind of education, or they can go to school. Everybody's just fumbling around trying to get it right, and they're all, to make matters worse, they're bringing this very emotional, unfaulty way of thinking about it, as you mentioned. So you're absolutely right. There needs to be some type of school, there has to be some type of place that people can go and learn about.
And there is now.
And there is.
That's what's so fabulous. Before, when I first came into this and first started learning this and practicing with Charles and his students who he had just started teaching, we were the first school, I believe, here in America. We were the first Tantra school, the Source School of Tantra Yoga. And that's still the name of the school now. And now you can go all over the country and you can take a weekend course in tantric loving, the art of conscious loving. It's as good a course as it ever was. And many people retake it many times because we have this programming that comes as youngsters about what sex is and what our bodies are here to do in performance. But we have very little understanding of how to become more conscious and more expanded as lovers.
Has the school changed over the years?
Only for the better.
And how so? Is there any, because every 10 years, everything changes in the world and the social and the cultural. So the school, it's the pillars that basically are the fundamentals, but are there different things that you add in that have changed now in this new century?
Oh, absolutely. And the fundamentals remain the same. The fundamentals of Tantra Yoga, as presented in the Art of Conscious Loving, as taught in our classes from the late 80s, mid 80s, till now, are essentially the same components and the same foundation of deeper breathing, open your eyes, exchange the breath and the intimacy through the eyes, how to use the hands in touch so that your touching is something you're doing consciously and you're actually using your hands to touch another, that sexuality is beyond the genitals. It's in all these centers. And how can we exchange that energy? How can we make love with all of our centers, not just with our genitals? And that's what makes it a tantric exchange. You never have to be naked with someone. You never have to be inside of them. There's an energy that we carry that's our aliveness. And sitting across the chairs with you, there's an energy that's being exchanged in our words. This is the most active part of us right now, is our words and our minds. But it's an entire exchange in all of the centers of aliveness.
Right, and energy's flowing that we can't see.
Yeah.
And we're not aware of it, but if we tap more into this awareness, then everything becomes much more of aliveness to it. Instead of just going through the practice manners of living and being, and because that's not life.
See, we know that.
Yes.
So how to transmit that to the average person who goes, what is this energy?
Right.
What is this woo-woo consciousness stuff?
Exactly. What is it?
What is it? What is this invisible thing that they're talking about? Isn't sex just friction and, get it up and get it in and get it off?
Right.
But that's the old paradigm. That's Big Mac, McDonald's sex. It's okay. It gets you fed, gets you satisfied for a little while, but it doesn't get you enlightened.
Yeah, my thinking would be what do you have to lose? Try it. Experience it. Take a little bit of it. And as you experience that with your boyfriend or your lover and your husband, bring that little bit of that breath and that awareness into the bed and that connection. And then you'll start seeing, whoa, I think I want a little bit more of this. And more and more. So don't be afraid of it. I mean, because in fear of being afraid of it, there would be no possibility, as everybody knows.
There's nothing to fear except fear itself. And when we start to love more, we become aware of how much we resist love, because it causes us to be very vulnerable. And vulnerability is something that a lot of people shy away from, especially men who need to be tough or in charge, women too. But the softness of the heart is a vulnerability that serves us in the bedroom.
Well, my thinking is, in vulnerability, you're not really being weak, you're being so strong. Because that's where your strength is, in the weakness, in the purity of showing up and allowing energy to flow and move. Vulnerability is where children live all the time. They live in this beautiful energy. And at some point in time, we close down and we shut down. And most people live in a common, everyday, same old existence. So here, there's offering great possibilities. I remember seeing on one of your videos the ejaculation of a woman. And Masters and Johnson's was, no, this is not possible. And you showed that this was absolutely possible with your ex-husband at that time. The ejaculation of a woman, that it was actually shooting instead of just coming softly or gushing out of the...
It can be very powerful.
It can be very powerful, and you proved that.
Yes.
How did you start thinking about that, and how did you even discover that? Because I'm sure many women don't even know about this.
I didn't either. I learned about it from my Tantra yoga teacher. And I went, come on. Well, I'm successful sexually. I have orgasms. I've never had this ejaculation thing. And we did a process of healing with me. Charles and I did. And pretty soon I was emitting this watery-like fluid, and I didn't really feel it a whole lot. I wasn't really feeling a lot vaginally because I had had several abdominal surgeries and a complete hysterectomy when I was in my early 20s. So I had some scar tissue. I had some shutdown about being sexual, a little fear around sexuality. I'd had some early childhood violation in my family that caused me to not trust men. So there was a reason why I was ending my third marriage. I didn't know how to be in a relationship with a man and be healthy. I didn't know how to express my sexuality in a healthy way. I only knew how to take what I knew I could have, which were my orgasms, my way. And it was a selfish thing. It wasn't so much about the giving, because I didn't trust them. And I would say that for a lot of women, and maybe a lot of men, loving another is easier than trusting. So the healing is emotional as much as it is physical.
It was very beautiful to watch that, what you did on the
My
video.
whole experience in those years with Charles, my God, those were the most extraordinary years of my life. To be with a man who is dedicated to my awakening and my healing. That I didn't even know how much I needed it. But once I got it, I went, oh my God. I had no idea my sexual energy was that big.
So is that an example of what we were speaking about before, that a woman really wants to be seen, as Charles stared deeply in your eyes, and you were going beyond the realms of trust, all those issues just fell away, everything fell away, and you were just transformed into pure energy. And he was there on that journey, and as you were riding the waves, that bliss of that openness, that boundless openness, he was there just as a witness, and he was really seeing you,
Yeah.
which made it so potent and so beautiful.
Exactly. I mean, what little he was doing, and it's important for the men to know what he was doing.
Yes.
Inside of me, it's a very simple stroking and contacting of this
Right.
sacred spot area, and any man and woman can get good at doing that. It's not a hard trick to learn, and releasing this liquid flow for the woman is really about surrender. It's a surrender to her power. And I had to learn how to surrender to my power. I was terrified of it. I just wanted my little orgasms, and I wasn't interested in big power. I didn't know how I would handle my own big power. What do you do with it when you get it? You go around, wanting to screw every guy on the block. I was afraid that it would change me in some way that would not be good, but that was not the case at all. Because when you learn how, with a good teacher, how to run this energy of passion, not just through your genitals, but through your whole system, because that's what I did in that video, Secrets of Female Sexual Ecstasy, and I show the breathing and the releasing with sounds, and I show the breathing and the releasing with sounds, and my body just follows what my breathing and sounds are doing.
And in lieu of the cameras,
In
the
front of
cameras didn't even bother you.
The cameras
You
were
so
there. There were
instated
9 people in the room helping with towels and this and that and lube,
and you could still be right there in that.
we just tuned
in that
them. We had to
energy.
tune them out completely.
Absolutely beautiful.
And just meditate with each other on this energy of love, because love is bigger than anything else. Love is bigger than fear and self-consciousness, and I mean, I had never exposed my body that deeply in front of anyone other than a lover, certainly not cameras that went out to thousands of people.
It sounds to be the benefits of that you start living your life more with ease. All the things perhaps that you were stressing before or nervous about, or everything started to flow.
Yeah.
When you weren't even in the bedroom, there was just a perfect order.
Yes.
And just a perfect simplicity to everything, because you were using this energy as an incredible tool of celebration and healing all the time.
And creation. You see, that the energy of passion is the energy of creation. In a woman, we create life in the right context with our partner when that sperm finds its way to our egg. And this miracle of life that can take place from a wonderful sexual experience, there's a birth that can take place every time that has nothing to do with a child. And that is the birth of more consciousness. And the creativity of, well, what do I want to do with my life? How do I want to use this creativity? And Charles and I would always, and I still do, an affirmation of positive good when I run my sexual energy and I feel my pleasure. I always offer it out to all the women on the planet. May they all know what it truly feels like to be loved and to be whole, to be in their power. And may the men surrender to this beautiful reverence of the feminine and receive our abundance in exchange.
And in doing so, it empowers him, where he becomes a better lover, he becomes more potent. The whole act takes on a whole new experience. It becomes much more potent. And if he only understood that, he's not giving up on something. He's gaining so much more.
I know. If only they could know that.
Right.
We do. Maybe they will listen to us. We are divinely feminine women, so we must know about this. And every woman that hears us speak is probably getting a little bit agitated and a little bit curious to know more about what it is we're talking about. But they can't know it unless the man in their life is willing to explore with them.
And if he's not?
If he's not, this is where a woman looks at her choices in life. Because she can go ahead and expand and explore and open without him.
With him, even though he's not doing it, she can continue doing what
She can continue to learn and bring the learning back to the relationship if he's willing to learn it from her.
And if he's not participating?
And if he's not participating, she will most likely either give up on her quest for her own wholeness and empowerment, or at any cost, she will head for it. That's what I have always found. Before I even knew what it was I was heading for, I would change my life to move towards that which was my birthright.
Right. Let's speak about the television show Sex and the City, the character Samantha, what she's done, and what do you think about that?
I've watched it once or twice.
Right.
I got some laughs. I went, this is so not for me.
Is there anything in there? I mean, there's a Charlotte, the good girl, who wants the perfect marriage, and the other girl who's very analytical about it, and the other girl, they're all part of different women's aspects, written from probably a male point of view. But
I don't know.
Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Not really. I have.
Samantha is very out there, like very sexy and very happening. It could almost look like she's Tantra, but is she? No.
I think they've had a couple shows with Tantra in them. Mm-hmm. I really have paid it very little attention. To me, it was all preliminary to what I was already doing. And I just wanted to take people and educate them and show them how they could have all these things they would sit at home and dream about.
So let's put this out to the universe, that there could be a show of a couple of women who were doing Tantra.
Yeah.
You would produce it and direct it and look at it.
That sounds good.
And it would be such an incredible show. I mean, there would be so many possibilities in there of what was happening with their inner reaction with others and the world. And it would be, to me, I mean, it would be absolutely a no-brainer that it must happen.
Then it probably will. I have a sense that this is what's waiting in the next part of my life. Doing more public speaking and perhaps projects about the power of women healing women, awakening women, so that women don't have to wait for a man to do it. And it does not turn us into lesbians to do that, for anyone who might be nervous about that. I always try to mention that because some people go, oh, women healing women, oh, that sounds scary, but it isn't. It's actually very empowering and very safe.
And living your life fully, it's not, you're not living your life if you're diminishing yourself and living less of who you are.
That's right.
And diminishing to fit in. You're living your life when you're really opening up to all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And so many people do the other.
Yeah.
They try to fit in. They try to just do what is enough to do, or to express enough, or to be lesser of. Don't see me, I'm really not here.
I know.
Almost an apology way.
I know.
It's about the opposite of that. It's about this beautiful energy of expressing it and losing yourself in that energy.
Yeah, going out into life with our radiance, showing. I mean, I can see that you're a woman who does that.
Another Scorpio.
Another Scorpio. But women of every lineage have it's our birthright to be radiant females. You don't have to be sexy, you don't have to look, like a goddess, if you're not sure what that is. But there's the radiance lives inside of us. And I see the impact without even, I go through most of my days in a place of great joy. And I go out into the market and do my life, and I'm usually smiling from my inner smile is smiling on the outside, and I'm enjoying everything I'm doing. And people notice that.
It's contagious. People notice it, and they want some of what you got.
Yeah, why are you so happy?
Yes. Why are you feeling so much? Why are you so engaged in your own life?
Yes, because I'm me, that's why.
And people look at you, they look in your eyes, and they say, whoa, what is she doing? They're curious as they pass you by.
Yeah, I do, I'm aware of that. So my job is to get out and talk about it and do whatever I can, as you are doing, whatever you can, to educate people, to let people know what's possible, that we don't have to live in the shadow of our former selves.
Right. You're writing a book that'll be published soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's speak about your book.
Okay.
What is the title of the book?
Queen of Hearts, The Life of a Sexual Pioneer.
And you are the pioneer.
I am the pioneer.
This is your memoirs.
It is my memoir. It is really my life from when I was little, growing up in the Midwest, and how the events of my life catapulted me towards yoga, and then Tantra yoga, sexual healing and awakening, and Tantra. And the experiences, many of them that I had during my marriage with Charles, in terms of sharing the knowledge that we were carrying and the love that we carried with other men and women, and how we did that. And it's radical, it's out there on the edge, and it's pioneering.
Why do you call it Queen of Hearts?
Well, my nickname is Queenie, and Charles named me his queen early on in our relationship in 1985 or 6. Mm-hmm. He began to call me his queen. And as I was writing the book, and I had many working titles, but the Queen of Hearts finally came through as the title. I'm not 100% sure the publisher is going to be able to use it, because if there's too many other Queen of Hearts names of books, then we won't use it. But right now, the title is Queen of Hearts. And the sexual pioneering is what I'm most interested in wanting people to know more about. Because we all come from pioneer stock. We all are here in America because our ancestors came from somewhere to this country and pioneered their way over here. And we got born eventually and came up through the ranks with very pioneering ancestors who came over from Germany and Europe and England and Spain and all over the world, this melting pot. And so the pioneering spirit in me, my great-grandparents crossed this country in a covered wagon to explore the West. And I crossed the country of marriage and belovedness with my husband to explore the outer limits of love and passion. And so the name Sexual Pioneer feels like an accurate portrayal of my life. And the book has been picked up by a publisher. It'll be out next winter. So
Congratulations.
We'll talk more about it
Absolutely.
when it becomes available. But it's been 5 years in the writing, as well as teaching lots of seminars and workshops. I never quit teaching. And as I have matured, how I play with my sexual energy, I talk to a lot of women who have gone through menopause, who are so curious to know, well, Caroline, are you still as active sexually as you were 10, 20 years ago? And I'm happy to report that I'm not as active sexually. But I still feel that I run my Shakti, my sexual energy, into everything I do. And I am creating and producing more than I ever have in my life.
So in translation, that means the frequency of your
exactly
is not as much, but then the potency of it is
the potency
there.
is within us as women. We carry this potency throughout our lives, whether we're being active sexually or not. And so many women get afraid if they've lost their partner, or if they don't have someone, that they'll lose it. That you know, their sexuality will just die on the vine. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't. It is an active life force within us that we can use to create television shows, to create families, to start an institute, to run a business, to
live our dreams,
to live our dreams.
All the great possibilities that our passion and purpose that we would want.
Yeah, and so that's what I think the real reward, the orgasmic reward, is beyond physical pleasure. The orgasmic reward is in the guidance of what can you do with this energy to make a difference for people on the planet. And I can see right in this time we're spending together how important what it is that you're doing is to interview people who have something important to talk about.
Absolutely.
And putting it out there for people to learn. Because we live in the age of information.
Right, it's about ownership, and basically try something that out of your familiar zone of some other type of possibilities that could be.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how young you are, or mid-age, or old age. And it doesn't, and also it's not about pills too. Everybody's into Viagra,
I have no
or
idea.
female hormones,
Really?
or male hormones, or the men Viagra. It's really not about that. It's about using your own life force energy, and in doing that, you're taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And this is what we need. So the governments aren't telling us what to do. The churches are no longer telling us how to be and what to do.
Yes.
That's the old way of being.
Yeah.
It's dying off.
Yeah.
We're in a new age where you use your sexual energy to become more alive.
That's right.
And be alive. And in that aliveness, there's that you're forced to take responsibility. And when you're forced to take responsibility, you communicate that with community, and so on and so on.
Yes.
So the world is changing in that way. And this, in my opinion, is our only hope. There's no other hope. If we just sit here and let the powers to be as it's been, and we don't do anything about it as a collective energy of people, as a human family that we are here, because we're all connected to each other. And in my understanding and in my practice of Tantra, this is what it's always been, that we move to the infinite, beautiful energy, and we claim that and own that, and then share that with each and everybody we happen to have the honor to look into their eyes. Even if they're passing strangers, there's so much there to connect with. And you don't have to want to give anything to them, you don't have to want to get anything. It's just a matter of being in presence and sharing that and exchanging that. And it's so beautiful.
I really admire your outlook and attitude and what you're doing with it. Because, as I really didn't know before I came here and met you, and we've had this time together, you know, what values you were grounded in, but I can tell that it's all for the greatest good, and as am I.
Yes, it's been a very strong knowing since I'm a young child that this is what people have to do. It wasn't something I had to learn. When I read your book in the early 90s and other books, I said, wow, she's speaking of something that I innately have known as a child. And I think we all know what you were speaking about and experiencing and what you're doing, and it'll tap into that of what we already know, but we have to just be curious a little bit to see possibly what is there in all of us. And I think that is a very important aspect to start this whole journey.
Well, I hope that we are tickling people's fancy and just kind of niggling and tickling away at the little chords that say, oh, go learn about loving each other, about conscious sexuality, about how to have more love in my life. You mean I can go learn about that? Yeah, easy. Charles does weekends all the time, still all over the country. The Source School of Tantra on the Source Tantra on the web, and the Divine Feminine Institute, which is my baby of the last 5 years.
And this is more for women?
No, it's men and women.
Men and women.
Yeah, it started off as the Divine Feminine Institute, and then we finally knew we had to add the rest of the name. So it is officially the Divine Feminine Awakened Masculine Institute.
Oh.
But it can be found on the web as the Divine Feminine Institute. Just Divine Feminine will take you right there. And so I am teaching my pet favorite parts of the Tantra work in a format and a curriculum with 2 other teachers who are strong in spiritual psychology and in communication skills.
And those teachers are?
Joan Hartfield, PhD, and her husband Tomas.
Tomas.
And Joan and Tomas are my dear friends from Maui. They shared my home with me for 7 years after my marriage with Charles broke up. And it had a lot to do with my healing from that marriage, because it was very, very hard to let go of a marriage with the beloved. But we have transformed, Charles and I have transformed our marriage into the friendship that it always was. And we still have frequent phone conversations and visits and great love. What we built in our years together is ongoing for life.
It's eternal.
It's eternal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. He's my dearest friend. So, but we're able to, there was also a part of both of us that needed to expand beyond where we could go in the marriage. And this happens. I don't suggest that anyone get unmarried if they're happily married by any means. But we both knew that there was more we could do. Not being always together as a couple, doing everything together. And we had to make the space for that. Let's say I knew it. I think I knew it before he did. But he would agree now that it has served us well, this sabbatical from marriage.
So your work now is about allowing and acknowledging that men could follow the sensual and sexual energy of women, and they could, in doing so, they could experience a whole nother side of their sensuality and the possibilities of sexuality in there.
Well, I'm trying to understand exactly what you're asking. I think what we do, for me, the truth that we're doing at the Divine Feminine Institute is encouraging men to look deeper than their belief systems about sex and to listen to the women about what the women want and need from them, and take that information in and begin to transform their own ability to love us based on what we are honestly telling them. And so there's tremendous honest communication and heartfelt dialogues going on in our modules and in our trainings to become spiritual sexual educators. That's what a lot of the people sign up for who come and study with me now. They want to become spiritual sexual educators. And you need to have good communication skills. You need to have an understanding of psychology, as well as the sexual healing techniques. So it's a broad-based curriculum, and it's very complementary with the Tantra curriculum that Charles is still teaching just so faithfully and devotedly as he always has done. And I love stepping back into that curriculum and teaching it with him. And then I love stepping out into my own world of the feminine and all the other ideas and things that I am bringing into the curriculum for the Divine Feminine Institute. So maybe that's a lot to swallow, but...
No, it's perfect.
Okay, great.
It sounds like exactly what needs to be as you are growing and expanding your life and the journey of your life. Everything's falling in the natural order. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, there's so much for others to benefit from this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What final thoughts would you like to share for others that you would say that they're in marriages or in relationships or in sexual union with others, and they're just feeling it's just the same old, and the communication it's not what they thought when they were going to be married. You could speak of that because you've been married 3 times, and basically of all your knowledge and experience, and you had a bird's eye view of looking at so many thousands and thousands of people that have been your students. Yep. So here they are, and what are the few things they could do at this point in time?
Own that they need some healing too, and that lovers can become healers for each other. with a little bit of education. Your husband or your wife or your lover, your sexual partner, can also become your healer in the bedroom. And that's an extension of sexuality that people don't know about yet. So whatever comes up authentically and emotionally in the bedroom can be handled and dealt with in the intimacy of the couple in a healthier way. Because what I find is that so many women especially have these hidden agendas that are emotional that we don't speak about around sex or frequency of sex or how he does sex or whether I feel like it or not. There's so many variables in the feminine. Whereas the masculine is more as long as we're still having it and doing it, I'm happy. And now that the men are becoming more emotionally mature, the men are starting to look at, well, no, that's not necessarily the way it is for me. I want her to be more intimate with me. I want it to be, lively and communicative in the bedroom with my wife of 28 years. I want more of that, but I don't know how to get it. So it's being willing to leap into the void and take courses and receive education to become better communicators and really study the subject of intimate, sacred sexuality. It is here now. It's available and clear across the country and all over the world. It wasn't available 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
Our parents could not have learned, but we can.
Caroline, I want to thank you so much.